Hello everybody. So in the previous video we worked on making a symbolic input type question. So writing the Markdown file that is eventually converted into the PrairieLearn files. It was question 12.18 from volume 2 of the Open textbook. So here's the file that we made, and the question, actually I can find, here it is, was this question here. Was to find the magnetic field at this point P. Our problem focused only on finding the magnitude of the magnetic field, but of course you could also ask and should ask about the direction. So in this problem there are two currents following these semicircular paths. The one on the inner radius is going counterclockwise, and by the right-hand rule it creates a magnetic field that's out of the page at point P. The clockwise one at the larger radius, the outer radius, makes a magnetic field that points in. Because the inner radius is closer to point P, it dominates, and so the net magnetic field is out of the page. And so that's the correct answer. And what I'd like to do is to see if we can go edit our Markdown file so that we ask both about the magnitude and direction of the magnetic field. So I'm going to copy what we worked on and say that copied version is going to be the basic question that asks only about the magnitude, and we'll go ahead and edit this question here. So here's my notepad, and there's our Markdown file. The vast majority of this we're going to be able to just keep and use as it was. We'll just have to go and add a couple of things. So where it says part 1, we're going to copy that and create a part 2. And it's not going to be a symbolic input, it's going to be a drop-down style of question. And so what's going to happen is there's going to be like a little menu button that students click on. It'll drop down a list of options, and they're going to select one of those options. This is, everything you could do with drop down, you could also do with multiple choice. I just happen to like the drop down a little bit better. So the customizations are different. We don't have a label or variables to worry about. There is an option called blank, and I'm going to go ahead and make that true, and I'll try to remember to show you what that does when we actually see the PrairieLearn problem. Notice that we set the weight equal to 1 in both cases, and so that means each part of the question will be worth 50%. If someone decided that the symbolic input part was more difficult and should be worth more marks, you could change the weight so that it's 2 of the 3 total marks available or something like that. So I'm just going to leave that 1 and 1. Okay, we're going to edit some of the text or the structure down here. The question text, some of this text is going to be relevant to both parts 1 and 2. So what is the so I'm going to say, get rid of the magnitude part and say, what is the magnetic field at point P? So that's relevant to both parts of the question, of the problem. So is the image. But this part here that talks specifically about the symbolic expression, that's for part 1. And so we'll put this part 1 heading here. And we'll also say that in part 1, what we're interested in is the magnitude of the magnetic field. The answer section we can leave blank for part 1, but then we're going to follow that up with a part 2 heading. And that part 2 is going to be focused on the direction, and we'll need an answer section for part 2, and we're going to have to populate this with some answers. But before we do that, let's go back to the server, the part of the Markdown file that's going to create the server.py file. And so right now we have stuff in there to work out the solution of part 1, and so let's say we describe the part 1 solution here, and then down here, let's make a note to ourselves that says something like define the possible part 2 answers. Okay, now the syntax is data2 params in quotations and square brackets, and then, part 2 in quotations and square brackets, and then answer 1 in quotations and square brackets, and we're going to have an answer 2 and an answer 3 as well, and then value in quotations and square brackets, and then we set that equal to whatever we want that option to be. And so it's going to be a string, and say points out of the screen is a possible solution. And that happens to be the correct answer. I'm going to go ahead and copy a chunk of this. And the next thing we need to do is to specify whether this is the correct answer. And it happens to be the correct answer, so I'm going to say that that's equal to true. I think you can use single quotes or double quotes here. I'm going to use double quotes just to be consistent with the rest of this. Okay, and then I'm going to copy this, and we're going to have some other answers. And so I don't forget, I'm going to say right away that this is going to be for answer 2, and this is going to be for answer 3. Okay, so if points out of the screen is an option, we could have points into the screen. But that's not the correct answer, so we'll set that equal to false. And then maybe we have something like points in the plane of the screen, or points parallel to the screen. And so that's also not correct, false. Okay, so I'll scroll down to where we have to do our answer section. And I try to keep what we just typed at the top of the screen here so we can see the structure of it. So the syntax here is double curly braces, and then it's params dot part 2 dot answer 1 dot value, the value to display, and so it'll display that string as one of the options. Okay, and hopefully we've got all of the syntax correct, and we just need equivalent things for the second and third answer. So if this has been done correctly, we should be able to convert this to a, so there's no output here. We should be able to convert this to PrairieLearn files. And so it looks like it was successful. Let's look at this output here, and we'll copy this into the PrairieLearn structure. We'll get rid of those files. Okay, good. Sorry, up there. And so let's go to questions, and let's find this question. Okay, so here's where it looks like. What is the magnetic field at point P due to current I in the loop of wire shown? So that's relevant to both parts. And so remember, it screws up the character mu. So I'm going to try to find mu in there somewhere. And copy that. And let's just quickly go back and fix this. So we go to Files, Question, and maybe we edit that. And let's get rid of this junk, and we'll put new in there, save and sync, and go back to preview. And so there's our new not. So we can say, what was it? It was new not times I divided by 4 times 1 over A minus 1 over B, I think is the correct answer. So we set that option blank true, so right here. What that does is it makes this little drop-down menu start with nothing in it at all. And so when you click it, then you have the 3 options: into the screen, out of the screen, parallel to the screen. So I'll pick one of the wrong ones. I should get 50% on this question if I've entered the symbolic part correctly. Yeah, so I got that marked right, and I got my drop-down wrong. And so if I go and fix my drop-down points out of the screen, then that's that. Make a new variant here, and just let's notice the order of the answers: into, out of, parallel, and parallel, out, into. So it changes the order of the menu options, the drop-down options, as you make new variants. But there's nothing in this question that's randomized. Every student gets the same question. Okay, so thanks very much, and I'll stop here.